Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Musicast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the very top of the show, I understand Joy has got some music news for us.
It's not really news, but kind of news because it was in the news, but it's really just Paul McCartney saying things. So apparently Paul McCartney has a theory that Bruce Springsteen has ruined gigs for everyone. I don't know if Tim has heard this, but Paul McCartney joked recently that Bruce Springsteen, I don't know why I can't say that guy has ruined it for everyone, as fans now expect 3 to 4 hour gigs. So Paul McCartney went on a big thing about that was kind of Bruce's big thing, and now that's the expectation across the board.
Yeah, because if you're a fan of Bruce, I'm a casual fan of Bruce. You know, I like the hits, but people get deep into his albums, and, you know, I like some Bruce, but I'm a casual greatest hits Bruce fan. But a lot of people love him, and a lot of people are deeply into the catalog of Bruce Springsteen. But yeah, he's right. You go to see Bruce, he's going to play a stadium, and he's going to play 3 to 4 hours, and he's going to play deep cuts. Yeah, he's going to play all the songs that you would expect to hear. But like, he'll dig into an album that he hasn't played for 20 years and play 3 songs from it, and people go love it. As you would imagine, if you're a fan of Bruce and you love all those album tracks, and he's digging into those old songs. I know that Tom Morello, who's the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine, he played in his band for a while. Yeah, and when they were learning the set, we said, "Well, what's the set?" And like, he was presented 300 songs or something, and he's like, "Really?" It's like, "Yeah, Bruce will just pick some songs out that he likes. He hasn't played for a while, so we need to be ready to know them and all that stuff." And it's like, what?
Well, basically, one of the things, so he was talking to Conan O'Brien. I can't speak tonight. Conan? When did his name become Conan? Conan O'Brien. His podcast called I Need a Friend. And basically, he says that back in the day when the Beatles would play, they would play for half an hour, maybe an hour at tops, and they get paid for that. He said you'd have multiple bands like on the roster for one concert show, or it'd be 30 minutes to an hour, and everybody'd be happy. He goes, you do that now, and they'd all boo you off stage. So there you go. There's my music kind of news from the 60s, apparently.
There we are. I mean, it's true. I mean, I saw ZZ Top in Roanoke, and they played for about an hour and 25 minutes. And I honestly felt a bit ripped off. I was like, is that it?
Yeah, that happened to me with, who was it? I honestly would have said it was Sum 41, because they were the third band in succession of multiple bands. And there was just... Their set list was so small. Like, it was like, are they done? Are we for real? You know what I mean, Tim? Like, when they get to the end and then they just left, and I kept expecting them to come back out. They didn't.
No, I don't know. Maybe I'm spoiled. I saw Paul McCartney, and he played for about 2.5 hours. I saw him in Greensboro a number of years ago. And then and he's played hit after hit after hit after hit. Then you look at your watch, like, goodness me, Paul's still going, and it's 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
Well, when we saw Elton John, that was a good 3, 4. Well, that's somebody who has, like Paul McCartney, has amazing, huge amounts of hits that span every decade, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of work to play, but or play to work, whatever. There's a lot of songs to be played. But yeah, I was surprised at how long that lasted comparatively to some other concerts. But apparently we can all blame or love Bruce Springsteen. He started it all. 3 to 4 hours is the average now for concerts, apparently.
Well,
if I'm paying, we've talked about the prices are, Tim, I better be getting at least 3 hours.
Yeah, if you're paying $300 for a ticket, I want the full set.
Exactly. Like, man. All right. What's your music news, Tim?
Okay, so I'm just going to recap the Foo Fighters set at Glastonbury. So the Glastonbury Festival was last weekend. We're recording this at the end of June. So by the time you hear this, it'll be a little bit after the fact. But they made a surprise, quote unquote, surprise appearance at Glastonbury. They were not scheduled to play at Glastonbury. They were not on any of the advertising or anything like that. They were going to be there. However, a month or so ago, a mystery band just below the headliners, the Arctic Monkeys, called the Churn-Ups, appeared. Oh. And people are like, who are the Churn-Ups? And how do they get to play, support effectively to the headliners at Glastonbury? Gotcha. And people are like, who are the Churn-Ups? And then sort of hints were being dropped by the Foo Fighters. And they said... they put a tweet out. They said, it feels good to be out there playing out on tour, and it's really churning up the emotions and all this kind of stuff. And then on the day, they posted up a picture of the Churn-Ups flag that was, because Glastonbury's all flags. So
Of course.
by that point, everybody had figured it out. But I managed to see the whole concert. They only played for an hour because this support slot was only 1 hour, or just
They didn't
under.
call Bruce Springsteen.
No.
No. Anyway.
And up on the screen at the back, they'd made a logo for the Churn Ups. And it was all sort of like Gothic script type thing, the Churn Ups.
Gotcha.
And then I recognized the backline, the drums and the amps and stuff. I knew it was Foo Fighters, but a lot of people wouldn't have clocked that. But the front bass drums said Churn Ups. And then they have some of their amplifiers and cabinets. Typically, they take the Marshall or whatever the logo is, and it says Foo Fighters. And what they'd done, all of those cabinets all had little plastic logos on that said Churn Ups. I just like the attention to detail. So just before they went on stage, the Churn Ups logo, it was all like in red. It was on a screen, but it sort of fell off the screen, and then it was replaced with the FF Foo Fighters logo. And then they came on, and it was absolutely.
And then everybody
fantastic.
started screaming.
Yeah, and I don't know, it was so good. And I've said this before, and I say it with no disrespect to Taylor Hawkins at all.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer it with the new guy drumming. It just sounds, I don't know. For me, it just sounds better. I mean, I said I'm not disrespecting Taylor in any way. He was the heart and soul of that band. But as a live entity, I really like what Josh Freese is doing with that music.
Do you think it's because he sounds more authentic, or what is it with his sound that you like more?
It sounds tighter. And he's doing some
just
stuff
cleaner.
Some of the fills and stuff he's doing is quite inventive. And the other thing that's interesting is reading the body language of the band. Now, of course, Taylor was their friend. Taylor was, their musical muse, all this kind of stuff. And I get that. But if you look at any old footage of the Foo Fighters, the bass player, I think his name is Nate Mandel, the bass player, he always looks fed up. He just looks at his feet. He doesn't really get into it. And Pat Smear, the other guitar player to the right of Dave on stage, stage left, but you know what I mean.
I got you, yes.
Yeah. He's always looked like he was sort of getting into it, but he never seemed to be smiling that much. A lot of these shows now, both Nate and Pat Smear are just like having the best time they've ever had.
Makes you wonder what was going on or what was said or how the camaraderie behind stage is.
Yeah,
Very
I mean,
interesting.
you don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak.
To be fair, obviously he was struggling, Tim.
Yeah,
mentally.
and I've been in bands with people that are struggling mentally and struggling with substances. And it's not a lot of fun when you're effectively working with people and they've got that stuff going on. So I can imagine touring at that level, that kind of commitment of touring, and you're in a band with somebody who's struggling with those various problems. And I could see that the stresses that would put on you.
Yeah. And that's not to insult anyone. Me and Tim realize it's a disease that people struggle with every day and they can't help it. It's a mental and it's a physical disease dependency that it sucks. It just does. But it probably does weigh a toll on people around you just as much as it does yourself.
Sure, 100%. I mean, all of us wish Taylor was still around and still rocking out with the Foo Fighters, me included. But, in a post-Taylor world, this I like what I'm hearing.
That's good. I mean, he would probably want them to go on and be successful in all seriousness. I don't think he would be against that theory.
No, absolutely not. But anyhow, it was a great set. Strictly speaking, you're not supposed to be able to watch it in the United States, but I did a little bit of... and it's magically appeared on my computer. Don't know how.
Whoa, how did you do that, Tim? Abracadabra, strange.
Actually, in fact, I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it because it was sort of legitimate. So I went onto Facebook and I typed in Foo Fighters Glastonbury.
Yeah.
And it said in posts, and somebody had capped it off the BBC iPlayer and made it into an MP4 file, and they'd uploaded it to archive.org. And it was as simple as just clicking download. And there you are.
Oh, well, there you go, Tim. I mean, I figured it was something along those lines. It's not hard to find that stuff anymore.
I was not doing anything particularly dodgy. I just followed a couple of links, and there you go. And I watched the whole thing.
All right. So what was the set list like then?
Well, it was hit after hit after hit, and in between the songs, like Dave would say, "Oh, we've only got 22 minutes left. Okay, let's play the next one," and it was just like bam, 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 bam.
All right, and then I think you had some music that you wanted to make some recommendations to the people.
Oh yeah. So we've done CDs of the week and stuff like that, and I will continue to do CDs of the week as they sort of interest me. You? Yeah, sort of come to me. But as you know, I'm fully embracing the world of the Spotify now. And I'd like to recommend 2 things I found on Spotify this week. The first one is the band Extreme. Now, we all know Extreme, More Than Words, all that kind of stuff. And in these last few weeks, I've really come to the realization that Nuno Bettencourt is an absolutely fantastic guitar player. I always knew he was good. But having listened to the new Extreme album and listening back to some of their older stuff, it really made my ears prick up and think, this guy is really good. Like, probably the best in his genre right now. We don't have Eddie Van Halen anymore. Folks are out there getting it done. If that style, I think he's probably the best. I think in the shred community, Nita Strauss is probably the best. But the sort of legacy, the Eddie Van Halen legacy type guitar player, I think is probably the best out there. So this is an album which is actually from 2016, and it's the 25th anniversary live concert of their album Extreme 2 Pornograffiti. And it was and it's Metal Meltdown Live. I don't know if that was a festival or something like that. Anyhow, but they play the whole album and they play it live. And it just really cements how good Nuno Bettencourt as a guitar player is. He's playing all that stuff off that Extreme 2 album so well, so cleanly, and it's just amazing to hear. And I must also just commend the bass player, Pat Badger, as well, because Pat Badger is as good as a virtuoso as Nuno Bettencourt is.
And you never hear that from the bass player, so good on you, Tim.
Yeah, as I said, because if you listen to it in headphones like I did, you will hear how he's following Nuno, or Nuno is following him, and they're so together with the stuff that they're playing and some of those runs and phrases and stuff. Pat plays with a pick. He's more of a rock bass player than a slap bass player or a traditional type bass player. But I don't know. I listened to this on headphones, and I've listened to it multiple times, and I really, really enjoyed it.
I mean, that's kind of interesting because I think we had a whole conversation about Extreme just last week when we were recording, and you talked about that they were completely underrated. And to be fair, I am a hits only fan, so I probably need to do my research. For those who don't know, Tim saw me pull out my notebook. I wrote down notes to go back and look after the episode.
Yeah, I would certainly listen to that live album because it's just the sheer musicianship is fantastic. And then I was also watching a live DVD. So actually not a DVD, it's a rip of a DVD that I was given a number of years ago that I never watched. And I was watching that again this week. And again, you see Nuno getting it done. It is just fantastic.
No, well, there you go. All right. What's your next recommendation?
My next recommendation. Now, this one came from the Twitter, and it came via a thread that Megan recommended to me, our listener, Megan. So I've been listening to this album, and this is amazing. This is different, but similar, but still amazing. So this is by Paul Anka. And I'm sure you're familiar with Paul Anka.
Vaguely, yes.
And it's sort of big band swing type music.
Yeah.
And it's his album called Rock Swings.
Okay.
And he does sort of big band cabaret swing versions of rock songs. He does either Tiger, does Everybody Hurts, Wonderwall, Black Hole Sun, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Eyes Without a Face, Tears in Heaven, etc. However, the best track on here is Jump. Van Halen's Jump. And the
swing band.
The funny thing about it, if you didn't know better, you would think that the big band version was the original.
Huh.
Interesting. It really works as a swing big band song with all the horns and everything. It just fits so well. I played it to someone today and they're like, yeah, that really fits.
It really swings, y'all. Sorry, I'll be here all week. Anyway, so you guys can cringe. I know that was a terrible joke, but anyway, but that's funny because I could hear that. I mean, Jump's kind of already very bright and happy, so I could hear that how that could work with like a horn section and everything.
Yeah, it's like I get up, but nothing gets me down.
Yeah, I can hear it.
I don't know. It's just it really works well.
Huh. Very, very, very interesting. I never really thought about it till now, but I mean, there's a lot of songs you could do that with, especially songs where it's kind of almost like they're not necessarily singing, they're like talking to you. I can hear it working with those big band kind of sounds.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other songs in there are good. I enjoyed Eye of the Tiger and stuff like that. And Black Hole Sun's interesting. But a lot of them sound like rock songs that have been repurposed into swing big band music. But Jump, it just perfectly works. And I don't know if it's just because David Lee Roth always thought he was like a cabaret singer game show host. I don't know if that's what it was.
That's why I think it works so well. I mean, to be fair, I could even hear him doing a version of it like himself and putting it in big band.
Yeah, well, he had a thing in, I think it was in Harrah's in Vegas a number of years ago, where he had a show which was all big band music. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's what he would have done the song there. And I don't know if that's where Paul Anka got the idea from. But I think it was like late 90s or something like that. After he had, he left Van Halen and then he had his solo career and things were sort of going down a pan a bit for Diamond Dave. And he was playing casinos in Vegas. And that's what he was doing with a big band.
Oh, well, there you go. I didn't know that. All right. Well, I think it is Tim O'Sullivan's topic. I do not know what said topic is, but I'll let him take it away.
Okay, so this is a topic we have spoken about many times, and I've hinted many times that it was about time we did it. So here we are tonight, exclusively for your entertainment and enjoyment pleasure. I give you the No Name Music Cast episode on number bands.
When you said tonight, all I could think of was, the Spice Girls song, Tonight is the Night. That's what I thought Tim was going with this. No. All right, number bands.
Yeah, so we've spoken many times about number bands and how we should do an episode with number bands.
I could think of 3 off the top of my head. All right, let's go.
Right, so I went through it and found a number of number bands. Well, actually, here's a question for you. What is the collective for number bands?
Collective? What do you mean?
Is it a mass of number bands?
I guess.
Is it a calculator of number bands? What's the collective for
like if you were going to group them together, how would you put them together?
You have a school of fish or whatever it is, but a murder of crows. A business of ferrets.
I don't know.
But you have a blank of number bands.
A collective of number bands. I guess it's a quantum, like somehow like quantifying them together. I don't know.
I would go with a math of number bands.
Math sounds good. I mean, you could do like a calculation of number bands.
A calculation of number bands, that would work.
I don't know how to quantify this, but we'll go with calculation or maths. Moving along.
Yeah. Okay, so we will go with our calculation of number bands. And I'm starting with the premier number band. The number band that everybody is speaking about. The number band that's on the tip of everyone's tongue. And that would be the band Freak 1C.
Yes, that's a band I think of all the time, Tim.
Exactly. And this is Freak 1C from their debut album, Swimming with the Big Fish. And it would be the song Curse of Common Man.
All right. Well, I am not that familiar with this particular song, but Tim has spoken about it at, I don't want to say ad nauseum, but at length before. It's not something that comes up in my mind all the time. I mean, I've heard of that guy, Ian Husbands. I think he might be biased, though.
That's true. So for those listeners who don't know, Frequency is a original band that I was a part of in the early 2000s. Ian Husbands, the singer with Frequency, is a good friend of mine, and we've set up that whole Freak Jam thing during the lockdown. And it was a band with some very good friends. Ian wrote some great songs. We contributed to those songs, and we recorded an album, Swimming with the Big Fish. And it was released on all the streaming platforms a couple of years back.
And for those who are listening right now, I want you guys to give them a goog, and I want you all to see the photo that pops up.
Yeah, I can tell you that was taken in the stairwell in the basement of the Fox and Pheasant in West Drayton, which is a pub.
A very is it like one of those old school pubs that still has like carpeted floors?
Carpeted floors, wooden panels, that kind of stuff. And we used to have a jam night. We used to do it in the basement. And then as the times went on, we moved up into the top bar. But yeah, I actually remember that photograph being taken very vividly.
Well, then Tim wasn't under the influence of too many pints, but he remembers. See, okay. I had one time, so I have a thing with alcohol, and alcohol should not be near carpets, Tim, period. And there's a big thing in the UK where they're still very pro carpet. At least in my mind, there is.
Yeah, carpet is your default. If you have a tiling floor, if you even have wooden floors, it's seen as somewhat fancy at this point. But people love their carpets, and like you say, carpets in pubs, carpets in shops.
How do you clean that? People spill drinks everywhere.
I know. I mean, like, we have carpets upstairs in our house. We don't have carpets downstairs. We have carpets upstairs. And the carpets are old. And when I can afford to replace them, I'm going to rip all these out and we're going to put wooden floors down because Hannah hates carpets. But, yeah, you're right. Especially, like, if you have pets, it's terrible.
Well, see, and we have some carpets and some not. I agree with Tim, rip them up. But most of my floor is not carpeted. I'm not a big carpet person. The bedrooms are carpet. You know what I mean? That's pretty commonplace in America. But outside of that, no carpets. But like, I have been to house parties. There was this one house party I went to. And I'm sorry, but alcohol and carpets are a no-go for me. And this is why it's surprising to me that it's a popular thing. And in America, Tim can say this, when you're in public, like a public location, like a bar or a restaurant or whatever, there's no carpets ever. Like everything, there's no carpet. Like we just don't do that because it's hard to clean is what I think is probably the reasoning. And it's also just not the norm. And so I just keep having images of people like dropping drinks and then the person having to clean it. And it grosses me out. But one time I went to this guy's house, huge house party, the biggest probably house party. I was like 19 years old that I have ever been in, Tim. I mean, I'm talking about people, barely enough room for any of us to get in, right? Like, it was a go and go away party for a friend of ours. I vaguely remember I was the only one who didn't drink that night because I was GDing and I had to drive and I ordered like 56 McDonald's hamburgers and like another 56 chicken patty sandwiches and brought them back at one point and like 150 fries. And my husband did drink that night and he made the mistake of not realizing this. It'll get back to the carpets in a minute, but he made the mistake of not realizing he was drinking out of a double shot glass instead of a single shot glass. So he got very sick and never wanted to make that mistake again. But this house party, the guy had carpets everywhere. And I distinctly remember, Tim, he had carpets in the bathroom.
Yeah, I've seen that in my life.
No, I'm sorry, but absolutely not, especially with drunk people.
Yeah,
bad idea.
I can remember houses growing up, like relations and stuff, grandparents that had carpets in their bathroom, 100%.
That has never now carpets are not like, most houses in America still have some form of carpet, typically in the bedrooms, but I have never, it's not a commonplace in America to have carpet in the bathroom ever in my 33 years.
No, you wouldn't want that. But as I said, it's just a very carpeted culture.
Weird. I don't know why. It's very interesting to me that it is. Maybe it's an insulation thing because it's kind of cooler. I don't know. If you guys know out there, let me know why England's pro carpet. We didn't talk at all about the song, Tim. What was the song?
Well, it was Curse of Common Man. It's my favorite track off of Swimming with the Big Fish. So you can get that on all the streaming platforms. And in fact, if you are a listener to this podcast, otherwise you wouldn't be hearing me now, your intro music is actually by Frequency. It is the song Another Day, and that song is on Swimming with the Big Fish, but the version I use for the podcast intro and outro is the demo version. It isn't the version that's published on the album.
And true story, Ian Husbands now lives in my head rent-free, that intro with Tim playing and him singing, because I've had many dreams since we started this podcast with that song randomly coming up. There you go. Anyway, all right. So what's your next number band?
So I'm going with one of the classic number bands, and this is one that we've spoken about before. And this is Blink 182 and All the Small Things.
So do you say Blink 182 or you say Blink 182?
I've traditionally said Blink 182.
Is that England? Is that what they say in England, or is that just you?
Do you know what? I think it's an England thing. I think in here they'd probably say Blink 182.
Yeah.
And in England, they probably would say Blink 182. Certainly, we played All the Small Things in Rough Justice and in other bands as well. In fact, it was one of those songs that was like a staple of the jam night, sort of. And we would say Blink 182.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we would say Blink 182. I've never heard it called anything else. And I think if the band members were saying it, they would say Blink 182 because I've heard them talk. Like Mr. Hoppus, how do you say his last name?
Mark Hoppus.
Every time I say Hoppus, I feel like I'm saying hippo. But anyway, that guy, I'm pretty sure he would say Blink 182. But I was just curious. So when you're counting in England and you get to like 82, do you say 82 or do you say 82?
We'd say 82. And 83,
so, but if you were
84.
saying 182, would you say 182 or would you just say 182?
I think we'd say 182.
I wonder why it's different for the band then.
I don't know. It just, for me, just seeing it on the screen here in my list, I just go Blink 182, not 182.
I guess it's probably, I don't know. I have no idea, guys. I got nothing. That's kind of funny, though. I wonder if there's any other bands like that. Now, I guess we'll find it on your list, Tim.
Well, I'm looking through the list, and I only have one other one with a triple-digit number.
Huh. Well, that kind of doesn't there. Yeah, to be fair, I can't think of any other ones with a triple-digit number off the top of my head. So these are the song with All the Small Things, which has that famous music video where they're making fun of boy bands.
I don't think I've ever seen the music video. I've played this song more times than I care to remember. I've enjoyed all three chords of this song multiple times.
I learned it on the ukulele like 5 minutes. It's like not a complicated song.
It's G, C, and F and variations of those three chords. That's it.
But in the video, they're wearing so they're making fun of, I think it's the Backstreet Boys. They're wearing like white flowy shirts and they're like standing out there. The video is making fun of boy bands in the early 90s. There you go.
There we go.
And I think at one point they're naked.
I will definitely have to check that out and see that in all its glory, probably.
But I'm now generally curious. We need to start a poll, Tim. Make a note. We're going to start a poll. Is it Blink 182 or Blink 182?
Yeah, maybe I should put a poll on Twitter and ask our friends on there and see how it goes.
All right. What's your next song?
Okay, so this next song, I don't think it's a band that you would have even heard of, though I'm going to say it anyway. So This is the band Haircut 100. Are you familiar with the band Haircut 100? Okay, so this was a pop act from the early 80s, and the song that I've chosen is Fantastic Day. Now, this is a very important song to me, and I may have spoken about it before on a previous episode, and it's pivotal in my career of playing guitar. And it seems odd, but it's correct. Now, it's fronted by a guy called Nick Hayward, and Nick Hayward is still out there playing music, and I think he still has the band Haircut 100, or at least the musical acts that he played with, he calls Haircut 100 as he fronts them. And in the very early 80s, there used to be a Saturday morning kids TV show called Swap Shop. And it was like a magazine-style program. It was 4 hours long. There was competitions, some phone-ins, some music videos and interviews and that kind of stuff. And it was targeted for kids. Gotcha. And I remember when this song was in the charts in the early 80s, and they would play it on there. And that was one of the few places you would really see music videos at the time, because we didn't have MTV. You had Top of the Pops, but, outside of Top of the Pops, it's the only place you'd really see things like that. Okay. And there's a scene in this video where they've got an open top car, American car. I think it's a Chevy or something, but it's a soft top, open top car. And Nick Hayward is sitting sort of on top of the back seat, like on the back boot of the car. Mm-hmm. And he has a couple of ladies either side of him. And he has an acoustic guitar and he's strumming it, singing the chorus, Fantastic Day. And my little brain in 1982, which was 6 years old or whatever, 7 years old, I saw that and I thought, let's listen to this amazing music coming out. Look what he's doing. He's just doing that, just strumming. That's all that's happening. He's just doing a strum and all this great music's coming out. And I thought to myself, well, it can't be that hard. Look, he's just doing that.
And that's how Tim started playing the guitar.
Yeah. And we had an old guitar in a spare room that my dad got from Woolworths. And I got it out of there. And then I started guitar lessons at school. And then the rest of it is history.
See, these numbered bands were very important for Tim's musical career.
Yeah. And one thing that's interesting is that the term, I don't know if the term haircut 100 actually refers to anything in particular, but certainly growing up, if you had a haircut, if you had your haircut at any point, the kind of thing your friends would say to you is, oh, hey, look at you, haircut 100.
Oh. I would have thought it was like his 100th haircut was very important to him.
Yeah, but it became a term for a while where people would call you haircut 100 because you'd had your haircut.
Interesting. I would have never known that. They must not have crossed over the pond, I'm guessing. Very British band.
I don't think so. And I know Josh from the Freak Jam knows Nick Hayward, and I think he might have even played in his band at one point. And he was going to tell him that story because it came up on our Zoom chats during the lockdown. I don't know if he ever did, but if you're listening, Nick Hayward, there's the story, and basically I owe it all to you.
And if you want to come on the podcast, we'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting to chat with Nick Hayward because
maybe you should see if Josh can get us hooked up.
It would be pretty cool. I don't know. I'd like to thank him for his pop video that he probably recorded in an afternoon and didn't think anything about, but he made a big impression on me at 7 years old.
How many chords are in that song?
I played the video the other day when I was looking into doing a research for this episode. Yeah. It's really not that hard to play. It's all CGF, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It's a cool little song. And I said it takes me right back, and there we are. Everything.
It's like that. Your theory is, he just strummed and the song comes out. It can't be that hard.
Yeah, that was my theory.
I mean, it's not halfway right, but then you learn that it is a little bit harder than that.
Well, sure, because there's bass and drums and backing vocals and all kinds of other stuff on it.
It's not all coming from the guitar.
Yeah, but you don't know that when you're that young.
Tim thought everything came from one musical instrument. All right, what is your next song?
Okay, so this is probably the biggest number band of all time. Really, I don't know. And this is U2. From the album The Unforgettable Fire, and I've chosen the song Pride in the Name of Love.
I was just listening to this song the other day. And what was it? Charlie said something about U2. And I can't remember what it was. What was the thing? But basically, we were watching a Family Guy episode, and Peter goes, well, if it wasn't for those sunglasses, Bono may have never came to help all those kids in Africa or something. Because somebody was selling sunglasses that looked like the ones that he used to use back in the day. Like no reference to his musical career or anything. That's all he said.
Phil would not forgive me if I didn't say, are those your mother's cataract glasses?
Alan Partridge for the win, I guess, or the lose. I don't know. Depends on who's listening. If Jilbo's listening, it might be the lose.
If Jilbo's listening, she's probably just switched this off by now or skipped past it. If Phil is listening, he's like, yes!
He's screaming at his radio as we speak. So I did find out an interesting, if you're listening, Phil Reece, I'm going to give you a shout out. So he wrote me last night, and there's this band. He actually introduced me to them. I don't know. One day we were talking. He just said, I feel like you and Charlie would like this band. It's kind of like a pop punk band. And let me bring up the exact name. I know it's like Pet something. And I had really kind of fell down the rabbit hole for a while. Well, it turns out Phil is very excited, Tim. I'll give it a hot take right here, right now. They're going to open for him this weekend. The band that he loves is opening for him, playing. And he was very, very, very excited to tell me. Let me see. Here you are, Phil Reece. But there, and he said that it just kind of happened to be, and he freaked out when he saw it on the. He says it's an open air stage. I guess it means outside. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be amazing. And the band is something Pet, but I can't remember their exact name. Pet Needs. That's what they're called. Okay. And I've listened to about 4 or 5, maybe up to 10 of their songs since Phil kind of turned me on to them for a while. But he's very, very, very excited, Tim. He's been listening to him forever, and they ended up opening up for him.
That is absolutely fantastic. Well, I hope Phil has a great gig, and I'm sure if that band is opening up for him, they're going to be excellent too. So I hope everything goes incredibly well.
Not that had anything to do with anything we were talking about, but Alan Partridge, Phil, figured I'd give him a little shout out because he was very excited last night.
All goes hand in hand.
Yeah, we took a turn there. I don't even remember what the song was. Oh, yeah, U2 and Bono. That's what started us here.
Exactly. Pride in the Name of Love.
Is there a reason you picked the song, or was it just one that you liked?
It's just one that I liked. I sort of when I do these research, these episodes, I sort of bring up all the songs from that particular act, and I try and most of the time I try and pick one that's not super obvious.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's one I really like, and I pick that one, or think of one that we haven't spoken about before.
I mean, it's very classic U2, and that little "In the Name of Love" kind of ending, like the little chorus. It's very. That's kind of what comes to mind when I think of U2 as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
That and that song that everybody hates because they ruined it for them.
What, Vertigo?
The one where that was on the album, like it was on everybody's iTunes or something.
Oh,
Where that was.
Yeah, everyone hated that they got a free U2 album.
I don't know why, but that sticks out in my mind because people complained about it for so long.
Yeah,
anyway.
there was even a support article of how to remove it from your iTunes library. There was a script you could run that would permanently delete it.
That's how you know you've gone too far. There's articles telling people how to remove your album. All right, what is the next number band?
Okay, well, let's go with this one. Okay, so this is from the band Sixpence, None the Richer, and this is the song Kiss Me,
which is a song that was everywhere in my adolescence. I learned this is one of the first songs that I remember singing at a talent show. It is one of the songs that I remember back in the day when we all had MySpace, so you could play music in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I knew at least probably 3 people that this was the song on the background of their MySpace, and I knew how to code it into your MySpace. And I will say it is a song that I'm probably almost to the point of burnout on. It was so popular when I was younger. Huge hit.
There was them, and there was another band about the same time, Alicia's Attic. Was that anything of me with Alicia Rules the World?
Yes. Yeah, that was about the same time. Yeah, and it was the same kind of music, same kind of flow. Very acoustic, almost like alt kind of girl. But that song is also one that's used a lot in movies and TV shows, I think.
Mm-hmm.
At least in my mind. I don't know for sure, but I feel like I could hear it. And I can even see in the music video. I'm pretty sure she's like on a rope swing at one point, and she was like swinging back and forth. And everybody who knew how to play the guitar back in the day, that was one of the songs they had to learn.
Yeah, I wonder whether the members of Sixpence None the Richer wrote that song. And I hope they did, because after finding out about My Sharona, I'd like to think that they could probably live comfortably for the rest of their days off Kiss Me. But I mean, I don't know whether they wrote it.
I'm fairly certain they did. I don't quote me on it. Don't come for me, internet. But if I had to surmise, I would think they did. Just because it was literally everywhere. Because, I mean, the other songs, they had that Don't Dream It's Over. They did that song. And then there was something called, like, Breathe Your Name. And I don't know. But Kiss Me is the one everybody knows.
Sure. And you're right. It's classic in films, TV, etc. It sort of defines a generation almost.
It really does. And I was right at that kind of like, for us, it would have been in America, maybe middle school or junior high age, like between a kid and a teenager when it became popular. So I think it's one of the first songs. I remember that in Norah Jones. I won a talent show when I was in middle school, and I sang Sixpence, and then I sang a Norah Jones song later on in the talent show. And I either came in first or second. I may have came in second, and I think it did come in second because I was mad because this other girl sang some country nonsense, and her voice broke on the high note, but because she went for it, she won. She beat me, but I didn't think she was very good.
Where is she now? Not doing a podcast.
I have no clue. I can't even tell you what that girl's name was. I don't know why I hold a grudge for her, because overall she did pretty good. We were like 11. I don't know why. I think the song that I sang was Norah Jones, Don't Know Why. That was the song I sang, which is still in kind of that melancholy Sixpence None the Richer kind of vibe that was going on at that time in my life.
Yeah, I love Norah Jones. She's Ravi Shankar's daughter.
I think she's a very underrated artist.
100%. Her voice is amazing.
It's very pure. Charlie, my husband's a big fan of that kind of sound too. We talked about the dramatic. He likes the dramatic music. Norah Jones is one that he likes. He's also like kind of into the Zombies kind of thing, or the Cranberries, or those type of songs like that. Not the Zombies. The song the people who sing the song Zombie.
That's the Cranberries.
That's what I was going for, guys. They're not the band. That was that thing. Just to clarify, the Zombies might be something completely different.
That's a different band.
In my mind, I think that's something very, very 60s there, just clarifying everybody. But that kind of sound is very, like, Linger has played in my house at least 1,000 times. There you go.
There we are. All right. Well, let's move on to another number band. So this one is Blue on Black, which is a cover, but it's by Five Finger Death Punch, featuring Kenny Wayne Shepherd and featuring Sir Dr. Brian May.
That's very specific. I don't know that I would have known that they were on this song with Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, so this was a charity song, and it was a charity song to to help first responders for various charities. It was raising money for that. And the video is very thought-provoking, has lots of tragedies being shown. It's a real, eye-opener to watch. But one thing that's interesting is that Brian May appears on this track, and he plays a solo on it. I would be surprised if he's even met the members of Five Finger Death.
Yeah, that's such a random.
Yeah, so they probably asked him, "Do you want to do this track? It's for first responders." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that." It's an afternoon of his time, because he thinks it's a worthy thing. But I've never seen him and Five Finger Death Punch in a photograph together.
That would be a very interesting photograph to begin with. But the song "Blue on Black", is that a popular song in like bands in Southwest Virginia? I feel like it would be.
Yeah, I've played it in bands. It's one of those sort of staple country rock type songs. I think it's fallen out of favor a little bit. When I first joined the band I used to be in, Whiskey River, when I first moved here, that was in their set. I don't think I've played it in any band since. Or we may have jammed it at a gig where someone asked for it, but it's not anything that's been in any of our sets.
See, I've never really been big on it, but it's originally like the Kenny Wayne Shepherd Band or something along those lines, I think is what it was. But it sounds like a song I could hear being popular in Southwest Virginia at the VFW. Yeah.
Exactly. But this version is really good. It really does rock. And I like the voice of the guy from Five Finger Death Punch. But the having Brian May on that track just sort of lifts it just a little.
In my mind, I never would have associated Five Finger Death Punch and Brian May in the same track. I don't know why.
Well, and one thing that's interesting in the video, so it depicts all these terrible tragedies that these first responders are helping people out. And there's a bit where they're saving some animals, and then it cuts to Brian May playing his solo.
Which is perfect because he's all about saving the animals.
Absolutely.
All right. What is our next number band? I keep wanting to say number band, like you say music news. I'm like, number band.
Well, I couldn't have a number band episode without this number band. There's not 4 of them, but this is Maroon 5. And from their album Hands All Over, this is Moves Like Jagger.
So did you know, so me and Tim live close to Smith Mountain Lake, and I used to have a friend who worked there, a very close friend of mine, and Adam Levine actually stayed at Mountain Lake a few summers ago, local to us. And he has different names that they put him under, but they warned everybody that was like a manager and stuff coming in that he was going to be there. And I just thought it was random. For those who don't know, Smith Mountain Lake is where Dirty Dancing was filmed. So it's a very famous location, but it's not really something that you hear like a lot of celebrities coming from. But now they're filming some show there. And there's a bunch of celebrities there. And it's like it might be over. I might be behind the times, but there was a TV show filmed there. And it was like learning the moves and like a dance show related to Dirty Dancing and had like a ton of celebrities on it.
I didn't know that.
I only know that because Angela Johnson is a comedian I like. And she's on my Instagram feed and she was on the show. That's the only reason.
But there we are. They probably came in one afternoon, did 2 hours of shooting, and then went back into their lives.
Probably, but in all seriousness, I just thought it was random. Adam Levine goes up there; he stays under a different name.
There we are. Well, one thing I would say about Maroon 5, the thing that I don't know if that annoys me about Maroon 5, but the thing that I find, that annoys me. There you go. Interesting but annoying. The guitar player James Valentine from Maroon 5 has a signature Ernie Ball Music Man guitar called the Valentine guitar. And I play Ernie Ball Music Man guitars. They're kind of high-end American-made guitars, very nice instruments. They used to have an Eddie Van Halen signature model, of which I have one. They have a Steve Lukather signature model, a Steve Morse model, an Albert Lee model. Joe Bonamassa had Music Man guitars. They're kind of a premium product. They're not a Fender or a Gibson. They're kind of high end.
Okay.
And they gave one to the dude from Maroon 5. Now, he may be a great guitar player. I don't really know much about his guitar playing. He may be a great guitar player. But the last few albums of Maroon 5 don't really have any guitar on them.
They really don't. They're not exactly guitar-heavy music.
No.
They're like pop kind of mates, a little bit of rock every once in a while, but mostly just pop radio hits. And to be fair, I could never hear Maroon 5 again and not think about the terrible Super Bowl performance. That stays burned in my brain, and that was about the worst. Flea did a better job when he was unplugged in the end.
Okay, so who would you say had the worst Super Bowl performance? Would you say the Black Eyed Peas or Maroon 5?
Maroon 5.
You think?
I was more interested in the Black Eyed Peas than Maroon 5. Maroon 5's it sounded like they couldn't hear each other. Adam Levine was so weird on stage. I mean, the Black Eyed Peas sounded terrible, but I think it's because I expected a higher level quality from Maroon 5 than the Black Eyed Peas. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I kind of got what I was expecting with the Black Eyed Peas. They're not exactly, and Fergie does not have the voice of the generation or anything. But Maroon 5 generally perform. I've seen them like on concerts. I've known people who went and saw them live personally, and they say they do a pretty good job. But when I say that I don't know if maybe something personal was going on in their life. Maybe they drank too much before the show. Smoke too much. I don't know, Tim, but when I say it was an absolute flop, it was a flop.
Yeah, I was not a fan of the Black Eyed Peas performance. I think Fergie has a great voice. And if you see the performance she did at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction or anniversary show, whatever it was, where she was doing Gimme Shelter with Mick Jagger, she singing the Mary Clayton part, absolutely superb.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim.
Yeah, so maybe that was just a bad performance for her.
The thing about Fergie is, I want to re-say this. I'm not saying she has a bad voice. She has a very specific voice. Mm-hmm. It works so well for things like Give Me Shelter because she has such a range where when she's in her so she does this thing where you flip a lot between like your head voice and chest voice. And there's very dynamic dichotomy between when she's singing in different places. And for a song like Give Me Shelter, where he kind of like, it's so intense and it's kind of all over the place already, it works beautifully. And I'm not insulting her singing in that sense. But it doesn't always work well for me. It doesn't always work well live and doesn't always work well for every song because we as humans, I've talked about like someone who's Dolly Parton, where the reason those people sound so good to us is they flow so effortlessly. Their voices are very easy. Fergie doesn't have an easy voice, if that makes sense. And so I guess what I'm saying is I had no expectation of it sounding great live at the Super Bowl. But with Adam Levine, I thought it would at least sound better than it did.
Sure.
Does that make sense when I explain it that way? That's what I'm getting at. And
you had higher expectations for our friends at Maroon 5.
Yeah, and I was severely disappointed. And the thing about it was it was boring. It was a boring show. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, at least with the Black Eyed Peas, even if it wasn't the greatest musically, I was slightly entertained. Even if it was just chuckling. Like, Adam Levine, Maroon 5 was just plain boring. I'm sorry, guys, for my Maroon 5 lovers. Generally, I don't hate them. I don't think they're a bad. It was just a really bad concert.
There we are. And thank you for coming to Joy's Super Bowl TED Talk.
And me clarifying my thoughts on Fergie's voice. We know everybody was really worried about that. Oh, God, though. Me and Tim still love her. If you haven't heard her national anthem, go give it a listen, guys.
It's the best bit about her national anthem performance, and you can find it on YouTube. It's not the fact that it's not that good. She's one of these people who oversings the national anthem performance and adds all this stuff to it that doesn't need to be there.
And the national anthem doesn't need it. That's just not the song you do that to.
Doesn't need it. And then she does this note. She goes,
So weird.
And then it cuts to one of the football players, and he's just like, "Oh goodness me!"
Yes, I think it's Stephen Curry, and he's just like, and then like I love when they're panning past their faces, and there's like some of them are chuckling, and they're trying their hardest not to react. They're like, hand over the heart, just sit here and do what we're supposed to do, but they're dying. It's like, and Lady Gaga she talked about this. There are some songs you can take creative liberties on, and there are some you can't. The national anthem is not a song you take creative liberties with. The only even Whitney Houston, who I still stand by, is the bar none best national anthem singer, period. Stand by that. Her version is the superb. She had a little bit of creativity, but it stands to the true way the song is written. You just can't do that, Tim. And Fergie does this thing where she almost tries to make it jazzy at some parts, and like the national anthem is not jazzy.
No, it's I would recommend you pause this podcast and then you look it up and draw your own conclusions. But I think the conclusion you'll come to is it's not good. As I said, when it pans to that football player or whoever he is, and he kind of like these sort of smiles to himself.
It's Stephen Curry. It's basketball, but his little chuckle, his face is everybody's face. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. This is what everybody. I think they showed Tyler Perry in the audience once too, and he's kind of like. And for those who don't know, Tyler Perry is actually a really good singer. Like, he's musically very talented, and so it's just funny. All right, moving along. This has nothing to do with the Black Eyed Peas. We didn't talk at all about Maroon 5.
There we go. All right, well, let's move on to this one. I assume you know this act, so I'm going to throw it out there just to be on the safe side. Okay. This is 10cc. Are you familiar with 10cc?
Yes.
Okay, this is from that album Bloody Tourists, and this will be the song Dreadlock Holiday.
Now, they weren't super popular in the U.S. I'm assuming they're an English band, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And they're like 70s rock-ish.
Yeah, 70s, early 80s.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I know them very well. I know one of the members' names is Eric Stewart, and that's about it. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I have heard that song before. Were they pretty popular in the UK then?
Yeah, and they had that famous sort of ballady song, I'm Not in Love. That was very famous. But
yeah, I would say that was a crossover hit for them.
Yeah, Dreadlock Holiday is sort of got like a reggae sort of feel about it.
That's kind of, I mean, I guess Dreadlock Holiday does allude to like Jamaica or something.
Something like
with
that.
With a title like that.
But this is a song I very much remember from my youth, and it's I'm trying to think of all the great 10cc songs, but I didn't want to pick I'm Not in Love, but I thought, Dreadlock Holiday, that's a song that I remember.
Is there a reason? Is it just because it was a cool song? Basically, it sticks out in your head.
Yeah, I mean, like if I'm looking at other things they do here, it's like I'm Not in Love, Dreadlock Holiday, The Things We Do for Love, and the Wall Street.
That's the song. The Things We Do for Love was a very big hit in America.
Yeah, and also the Wall Street Shuffle was another big song that they did.
The Things We Do for Love, was there another remake by somebody else who did a different version of it too, I think?
Very, very possibly.
I think in the 80s there's a remake that might have been even more popular than their version, which will now be in my head. Thank you, Tim.
All right. Well, I'll try and clear it out of your head with another number band. How's that?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So this is another classic number band. Well, number band that you'd be very familiar with. And this is Three Doors Down from their album The Better Life, and this is Kryptonite.
Oh, gosh. So this song is one of those songs that plagued my childhood to a way that, like, so there's like this genre of music, and I don't know how to, there's just like, I have these parameters around my head, and it's like 3 Days Grace and like all these kind of like alternative rock songs that were super hinder, great band that I could think of that kind of fits that kind of mold. And there was a time frame in my life where that was all anyone in Southwest Virginia listened to. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how else to explain it. If you know, you know, but there's like this block of music that they fit. And the song Kryptonite is like probably one of the most known songs from that genre.
Yeah, and I would call that genre of music proto-Nickelback.
Yeah, or Nickelback Light. Generic Great Value Nickelback. Great Value is the generic brand at Walmart in America.
Tesco Value Nickelback. There you go.
There's the British version for our friends. Great Value Nickelback. If any of the members are listening, guys, don't come for me. But there really was. And even like Uncle Cracker was kind of in that, like there was just like a time when that was everything. And that was everywhere. And I remember, I mean, Kryptonite, though, is probably one of the biggest radio hits of all time. It still plays on the radio to this day.
And it's a song that I played in many bands. I mean, it was also easy because it has 3 or 4 chords in it all the way through, but it sort of rocks. And I wasn't really aware of this song until I started living here. And I played in a band with my friend Kurt Farmer. We had a band called Dirty Rumors, which ran in parallel with that other band I used to be with a number of years ago. And he used to do Kryptonite. And I had this running joke sort of with me, but it wasn't a joke. Yeah. He's a great songwriter, and he's written some really great songs. And in fact, if you go on your streaming platforms and you search for Kirk Farmer, there's some music on there that I played with him. I played a lot of the guitar parts. In fact, I play all the guitar parts in all those songs if you wanted to go and check those out. And he's written some great music. And I said, we wrote some songs in Dirty Rumors. We had an EP. It was a whole thing. But because he was a songwriter and often we played his original music, he would play songs like Kryptonite. And because not knowing any different, I would assume that they were his songs. And I can actually remember the first time I heard Kryptonite. And I think it was in a car we had, and I didn't have the iPod hooked up or a CD playing or a USB or whatever. Yeah. And it was like WROV, the Rock of Virginia. And they start playing this song, and I'm like, I said to Hannah, I said, this is Kirk's song. And she's like, no, it's not. It's 3 Doors Down.
That's hilarious. Well, and to be fair, I mean, it's kind of a cool song because if you listen to it, it's a play on like Kryptonite, like Superman. You know, if I go crazy, then will you still call? Yeah, Superman. Yeah. And so I could see how you could think somebody could write that because it's kind of a common thing that might come up in your brain. I don't know. It's not that like advanced of like a song, I guess.
No, it does rock though. We used to play it really well with Kirk. I don't think I have any. I may have a recording of it. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's one of those staples of the live set when I used to play with him.
To be fair, I know every single word of that song by heart. So, I mean, it's not like I'm insulting it. I'm just saying there was a time period in my early high school years where that music was just like at its height. And that's all you heard in America on the radio. Those bands like Three Doors Down. Of course, now that I said that, I can't think of any other one, but you get the concept.
Now, the question I have for you, which do you know the lyrics better to? Nickelback's Rockstar or Kryptonite?
Kryptonite. Absolutely. Now, this is embarrassing. I'm gonna die when I might have to take a picture of it and post it when we're done. I went through my high school yearbook, and in America you have like superlatives and different things like that. And there was a section for my senior year, my high school yearbook, and it said we had to vote on our favorite song. And we had to vote on like our favorite drink, and there was something else. And Southwest Virginia, Joy did not, none of her votes made it. I did not vote for any of these things. I want to stand by this. The drink was Mountain Dew, and the song was Rockstar. It still sends a shiver down my spine. It makes me angry. I can't remember what the other one was. There's probably like your favorite movie or something, and it was probably like, yes, I think it was Talladega Nights or whatever, that movie with Ricky Bobby, the comedy. Tim doesn't know. I'm pretty sure idea. Which just you do.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just imagine a movie that kind of fits what Mountain Dew and Nickelback are. There you go. But it is kind of funny. I've watched the movie a few times. I want to say that was the movie, but to this day, I remember I was going through my yearbook and I saw that and I was like, oh my God. Why? How did we let this happen? But I about died laughing when I saw it, because of course it was. Oh, anyway, there you go. There's my embarrassment for the week. All right, Tim. I think we got time for about two more number bands.
I think we can do a couple more number bands. All right. So this one is from the album Bigger, Better, and Faster. This is the 4 Non-Blondes and What's Up. Now, I will say, I wanted to choose a song by the 4 Non-Blondes that was not What's Up, and I looked through their various offerings, and it's the only one I recognized.
To be fair, it is the only one I recognize. And what's very interesting is this song is a song that everybody knows, right? You know, and she's singing about something that's super important. There was a Miley Cyrus version that came out that I was on the fence of the first time I heard it. And then there was a Lady Gaga version that came out. I was on the fence of the first time I heard it because the version with, what is her name? Linda Perry is so iconic. And Linda Perry, to be fair with her, even though like we're saying we don't know any other 4 Non-Blondes, she's wrote music and played on like 1,000 other people's songs.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
She's an iconic like musician.
Yeah, she found her groove as a songwriter more than a performer. I mean, you're right. A lot of this pop music you hear has Linda Perry involved with it as a songwriter, producer, contributor, etc.
And see, I think is she kin to Katy Perry, or did she just write a lot of Katy Perry music, or is it both? I've heard there's some type of thing with her and Katy.
No, Katy Perry's real name is Catherine Hudson. So Perry is a stage name.
Yeah, but I think that her and Linda are somehow, she must have just wrote a bunch of music for her.
Yeah, she has written songs for Katy Perry because she is such a well-established and talented songwriter.
No, that makes sense. And then I know she's wrote a lot of songs for Pink. I've heard that before. And her and Pink have done music together. I think Miley Cyrus has had a few Linda Perry, and they've performed together a few times. And Linda Perry, I watched a thing where she played before with Dolly. Like, she's iconic. But I was going to say the Miley and the Lady Gaga version of What's Up are very interesting. I don't know if I prefer them, but if you've never heard them, just give it a go on YouTube, do a search, look up the Miley Cyrus version of What's Up, and then the Lady Gaga version. I'd be curious to know what you guys think too, because I'm on the fence if I actually like them or not. And then I think the song "Beautiful" by Christina Aguilera, which is a very famous song she did, was written by Linda Perry as well.
I think you're right. And I can give you an interesting fun fact about Christina Aguilera's "Beautiful." What you're listening to is the First Take demo version.
Yeah, I've heard that. And I mean, I honestly think it's better because it makes it feel more raw. It's such a raw, vulnerable song. And that's kind of what Linda Perry does best. I think her songs are very genuine. And so that's why her music speaks. But yeah, I've heard that about Christina. And Christina Aguilera is a phenomenal singer. I mean, there's bar none. Whether you like her or not, she could sing the telephone book. You know what I mean, Tim? So it's not surprising to me that would be a first take.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they did subsequent takes after that, and they came back, to cut the actual track, and then they listened to that demo and they said, you know what, this demo version, that is the cut, that's the one right there.
Well, and Christina said that song spoke volumes to her as a person because of like being in the public eye all the time. So it makes sense that song would be very raw and vulnerable and work on the first track. There we are. All right, what's our next? We did not talk about the song really at all, but what's up, 4 Non-Blondes? What's our next song?
Okay, so this is your penultimate number band. And again, I wonder whether this is a band that you're familiar with. So that's why I picked it, just to see. Are you familiar with the band Level 42?
I don't think so.
They are a British sort of funk pop, progressive pop type band from the 80s. Okay. And the track I picked out was Running in the Family.
I think you talked about them once before. And so I've heard of them, but I've not really like sought them out in any way. Yeah,
they were a band I used to enjoy. I mean, I still like some of their tracks. I have a greatest hits album on CD of Level 42, and it's pretty much everything that you want. It's like every track on it is absolutely fantastic. I had a cassette version of their album, Running in the Family, and he was on holiday. And if I remember correctly, we was on holiday in Bognor Regis, I think, at Butlins. And I remember buying a copy on cassette. And it was unusual for me to buy a cassette because I mostly bought records and copied them onto cassettes. But as I had my Walkman with me, we was near an Our Price Records, and I bought a copy of Running in the Family on cassette. And I remember listening to it when we was on holiday in Butlins at Bognor. And I don't know, this song in particular takes me right back to that moment in time.
See, and I've had that before, especially back when I was in high school and I was listening to just like, I would bring a few CDs with me on vacation or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just seem to remember those songs when I hear them. That makes me go back to like when I was on vacation. So I get that.
Yeah. And I know I like the song, and I find a lot of Level 42's music very good. And I would say check them out because Mark King was the singer, and also he was the bass player, and he has a very unique bass playing style. He's one of these guys who slaps. He's like a slap bass player, and he was doing that stuff long before Flea was ever thought of.
Huh. Oh, Flea. Like I said, I still think he was a better performer without the bass plugged in.
Well, as I've said before about Flea, I mean, Flea is obviously a talented bass player, but I think he's incredibly overrated. I think it's a lot more flash and image over substance.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not an expert when it comes to bass players, so I really can't make the judgment. It's just he's the one I hear everybody talk about. But I've just never been a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan. They just don't do anything for me. They kind of fit like the Third Eye Blind kind of genre I was talking about, that chunk of music in a way. Honestly, besides Love Roller Coaster, which is a remake of another song, it all just sounds like radio or like album filler.
That's correct.
Sounds like album filler.
Like I like Give It Away, I like Under the Bridge, but you're right. Any of their other albums, even the singles, just sound like album filler to me.
Yeah. There's nothing that like catches my attention as, and that's not to insult you. If you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, go. It's just for me. I just can't. I don't know.
Yeah, it's never been anything I particularly wanted to seek out the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they have this grand reputation of being this amazing band and these great albums and stuff, but don't know, not for me.
Well, there we go. All right, Tim, give us one more number band.
Okay, well, I'm going to close this out with a favorite of Joy's. I couldn't do a number band episode without mentioning this number, and this number would be number 5, and this would be the Jackson 5, and we're going with the song "The Love You Save."
Oh, that's a great song because it's one that I think gets forgotten. Like, it's not one of their big hits, but I love everything the Jackson 5, so it's hard for me to pick. That's a good choice, Tim. I'm glad you picked it.
Yeah, I thought I couldn't do one of these episodes without having the Jackson 5. And I looked at their other songs, ABC and stuff like that, and I thought that was a more obvious pick. But The Love You Save, it's not a deep cut by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not one that necessarily gets a lot of airplay, as you will.
Well, and it's kind of cute because he's talking about it in the middle. I mean, I always think of, when I think of the Jackson, I think of like the whole package. I think of the dancing, Little Michael. I think of the outfits. I think of all of it, right? So that's what comes to mind. And when he's singing, The Love You Save, that's one of their famous, like, kind of ones that sticks in my brain. But it's cute. He's talking about like another kid, and there's something about them kissing under an apple tree at one point. And so it's just kind of adorable. Like, it's kind of cute coming from a kid. But I will say the one that I find very strange, and I didn't realize it. The first time I learned Ben was about a mouse. That kind of threw me off.
Yeah, I think it was from a film or a cartoon, if I remember correctly.
I was like, oh, he was singing about a mouse. Interesting. You never know what what the song's really about until someone says it. Then I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't see that coming. I just assumed Ben was a kind of his friend, like his friend in real life. To be fair, Michael was friends with a lot of animals, though.
There we are. And he was friendly with a mouse as well, called Ben.
What was his monkey's name?
Bubbles.
And then he had a giraffe. I know that.
I'd like to think the giraffe was called Pickles, but I don't think that's correct.
Well, I hope it was. What happened? I sadly don't even want to know what happened to all the animals at Neverland Ranch.
Bubbles got rehomed in a sanctuary for monkeys and all that kind of stuff. I think Bubbles is living out his best life. I think the rest of the animals he had went to similar sort of wildlife preservation things. And I also, the fairground rights got sold as well. But all the animals, I think, got rehomed.
Fair enough. Now I have that song stuck in my head. Thanks, Tim. With that being said, do you have anything else for the people? Yeah,
just before I go, I just wanted to give a notable mention to some other number bands that we didn't get to.
Oh, okay. Let's give it a rundown.
And then we'll close out. All right. So we have the B-52s.
Oh.
We have Shed 7. We have 38 Special.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
We have the MC5. We have Electric 6 and Led Zeppelin 50. And that's a lot. See you later. Bye-bye.
To remind me of another day to love.